All right, Gabe, we're going to get started. I'm going to kick us off. We'll probably have a few more join us. We're expecting a few more on our side. Before we get into it, so you guys know, if this is your first webinar with us, we will be recording this. It will be available later today. You'll use that same link and be able to view it on your side. And of course, the chat is your friend. We're going to go ahead and use that for all questions asked. Put it in the chat and we'll be able to help you guys out with anything that comes up, or point you in the right direction to set you up with a rep to take care of you all. So use that chat. Don't be shy. We already had a few people throw their NFL team in there. So please go ahead and use that if any questions you guys have during the webinar itself. We do have Gabe Ganella here. He's one of our lead support reps. He does hail from the collegiate basketball space. He actually worked with NC State men's basketball, who were also former users. So that's where he kind of got his Just Play start, and we're happy to have him with us today talking about Scout templates. And I think before, we kind of kick it over to you, Gabe, just kind of understanding some of the terms that we use as Just Play reps and that they'll find throughout their system is where I think we can probably start here. So I'm going to share my screen on this side. And if you guys have not set up a Scout template for your season, please do so well before your first game. It's going to set you and the staff up for success. Now, I joked about hearing Gabe Ganella's voice all through some of our support videos. That's where we're going to start today. We have a whole library of different scouting reports that people have utilized or clients have used. And each video or each scout is paired with a video to teach you how to build these. These are going to be the same building blocks and concepts that Gabe will be going through with us today, so we get to take advantage of that live. I'm going to throw this link in the chat so you guys all can peruse that if you're wanting to make a change to your Scout or simply present options to anybody out there. You guys are able to. So you guys are going to find that link in the chat right now for you guys to use. I believe Gabe will be going over one a little more similar to the 101 traditional scouting report with slight changes. So he'll be taking us through that one.
Yep.
So that's in the chat right now. You guys can hear Gabe's voice more. And the next thing to cover, and this is kind of the terminology we were talking about, Gabe, is what makes up a Scout template and how do we kind of customize it? And the way you do that is using the 3 areas. Now, Gabe will show you where to find these 3 areas as we get going today. It's all housed under your scouting section within the Scout template area. And the 3 ones we just want to quickly go over before we get into it here are Scout templates, stat profiles, and print settings. Scout templates, we say it's the backbone of every Scout. It's going to control, what keys you want populated in a Scout, what order they're in. It's going to allow you to have placeholder text in for any text box, whether it's keys or even personnel, which Gabe will actually show you in his example today. You guys get to set preset roles for your skills list and build as many as you want. And of course, you can even select automated reports to automatically be created as soon as you create a new Scout. Team summary is one of the most used there in the overall split or conference split. You guys have that. And of course, the ability to customize summary views. And you guys don't have to be writing down. I'll provide this graphic so you guys have it as well. But the big takeaway for Scout templates is it's the way to standardize the Scout across the staff. So if you guys all want to stay on the same page, be consistent throughout the season, setting up your Scout template and doing that part correctly is going to help you guys immensely during the season. The second part of this in print settings, stat profiles and print settings support that Scout template. So stat profiles allows you to select different stat splits or stat fields in different areas of the system. These include team summaries, all box scores that you see, any personnel stats, so that's obviously the big one, what stats we show with personnel, and of course any reports that we can add in the reports tab, you can actually customize and pull in to match a stat profile that you create. So anytime you're wanting to change a stat or stat split, go to your stat profiles, you're going to be able to create or manage it there. And then very lastly, print settings. I think this is about where we're going to start as well, Gabe, but this is going to allow you to dictate the order of sections. So whether or not you want personnel first or keys on the cover page and then keys after personnel. It's going to allow you to change all of those items in the order, and that's just how they appear. So the order they appear, and then there's also some customizable settings within each section, whether you want skills lists, a 3-column or 2-column, things of that sort that Gabe will be going over. So the print settings going to allow you to change how it appears and in which order, and also allows you guys to pull in 2 different views of a scout, maybe for a coach's scout versus a player scout. So you'll be able to do that within the print settings. So I'm going to provide this graphic. You guys can refer to this as Gabe goes through things if you need a reminder on some of the terminology he uses. But otherwise, Gabe, I'm going to stop my screen share, add this graphic in the chat, and then I'll let you get into it.
All right, awesome. So yeah, those 3 things, that's really the best way you're going to be able to set up your scouting report, just to make everything real easy on you when it's time for you to actually create a scout for the season. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Dee, are we all good there? You can see everything?
I can see it. Perfect.
All right, awesome. So this is one that we already have built out. Like Dee said, it's kind of like the traditional one in that folder, but there's a few different changes. So I'm going to go through this print template right here. I'm going to go over here on the side and show you these different print controls and just show you what some of the different settings look like, so you guys can see it with your eyes. And then we're going to jump over to the system, and I'm going to show you actually how to build it with those 3 different areas that Danielle just went over. So this is a scout for the Kansas Jayhawks on the men's side. So first off, as you can see, it's starting with a vertical depth chart right here. So as you can see, these print controls on the right, these are going to let you manipulate this print template any way you want, but this is going to be just like a one-time thing. So if you refresh your screen or get out of it or make any changes, you're going to have to redo the settings over here. So that's why we say that going to your print settings, like Danielle just showed you, is the best way to do it, because that's going to set that for every scout that you make. So as you can see up top,
to kind of see all those settings if you're in this print window, Gabe, as you go through it. So just to set the table for everybody, he's just showing you all the different options you have, and this is going to be the best way for you guys to understand how it shows within a scout.
Yep, a nice visual area right here. So like I said, this is starting off with a vertical depth chart. So I can come over here and click on the gear icon. You can change this to horizontal, which is just going to flip your position and your starter and bench right there. I'm going to keep it with vertical. And as you can see, the header right here is expanded opponent. So that's what this header looks like. And we call that expanded opponent in our system. So I'm going to go through the other headers just to give you guys a little look at all the other ones. So if I do none, it's just going to take a header completely away. Condensed opponent is going to be a smaller one like this. You're going to see this on your reports as we get through this down lower. Then that's the expanded that we have. And then your classic matchup is just going to be your logo versus your opponent. And then we also have the marquee matchup, which is going to be a little bit bigger and still have that record right there. So I'm going to keep this as expanded, and you'll see throughout I have pretty much every header as expanded opponent. That's just kind of my preference, but you guys can choose whatever you want. So after your depth chart, you're going to see these are what we call your keys sections. So I'll teach you how to add new keys. And as you can see, I just pre-populated some bullets in there to get our spacing right, because I'm not going to add any information, but I will show you guys how to do that as well. So I can come over to our keys settings. I don't have a page break on because I want this page to continue into our skills list and snapshots, but you can also change your layout. So you can go from 1 column down to 2 and 3, and then custom is going to give you the ability to customize the different ways that the keys show up. So as you can see, about the opponent is going to go across the whole screen from left to right, and then we have a 2 column right there. So if you choose one of the 1, 2, or 3 column, every single key that you put throughout your scouting report is going to be in that configuration. So I like to always keep it custom so I can just kind of move stuff around how I want it. No header right there. And then we're moving right into our skills list, which we have pre-populated. So these are kind of your 3 stock ones that are going to be in there in your system, but you can change these however you want. And I will also go over that. This is going to be your matchup snapshot. So you have the ability to have this bar graph, or we have another one called radar. That's just going to look a little bit different, but give you the same information. And then that's going to go into some advanced stat comparisons on the right. As you can see, some of those are lit up in different colors. The green means it's going to be the top third in the country. Black is middle third in the country. And then if it was red, it would be the bottom third in the country. This is on our reigning national champions, so no red there. And then you'll also see those numbers in gray next to the percentages. That's the rank that they are in the country right there. So now we have a page break and we're moving into our personnel. So there's a few different options for your personnel. I have it on classic right now, and I do have a break after our starters. So once I set my 5 starters, the bench is going to go on to a new page. You can toggle that on and off however you would like. So this is what we call our classic. And then we have it in both on the left and the right, which I'll get into that as well. So I'll just kind of go down the line. Condensed is going to move your notes to the right and kind of make that a little bit smaller for you. Table is going to be even smaller, no pictures, and a little bit less room to type in some information. Then 2 column, a lot of teams like to do this to fit their personnel on one page. And then you also have shot chart, which a shot chart would pull in right here, where I would have to populate that, which I don't have on right now. So we're going to keep it at classic.
And Gabe, if they like some of the styles that you're clicking through a little quicker, go to that link. It's going to give you guys a lot of different styles, like a bench sheet for the condensed look. So it's going to give you ideas how those styles are being utilized. So just wanted to make sure, Gabe, that I plug all the hard work you did
in that folder. Every single setting is used somewhere in that folder, so you'll be able to see it and be able to recreate it as well with those videos. So now, as I said, we're moving into our bench. So just going to look the same there, but we do have that page break in between our starters and bench. And as I move on, this is what we call our team summary. So now we're in our reports. So this is a team summary report. It's going to give you an overall box score, overall team stats, and then also each game and the outcome right there. And then we're going to move into our advanced stat comparison. So it's going to still compare you versus your opponent with your advanced statistics, and then your traditional stat comparison, which is just going to have your normal kind of bare bones stats right there. And then moving on, I did add some individual box scores here. So just the box scores from these individual games. So versus Miami, Villanova, and Carolina. And I will show you how to individually do that as well. So Dee, if we don't have any questions so far, let's jump into it and show everybody how to build this.
Nothing so far, you're good.
All right. So now I'm going to move over to the system. I'm just in my account here, and I'm going to navigate over to scouting and down to scout templates. So the first thing we're going to start with is our print settings. Since we already know what we want this to look like, we're going to go over to print settings and kind of configure that how we want it. So I'm going to click into print settings. As you can see, I have a bunch already built out. Those are just the different ones that I made in that folder. So you do have the ability to add a completely new template and kind of configure it how you want. I'm going to stick with default right now. So I'm just going to click on default and it'll drop down for me. And this is where I'm going to be able to move some things around how I want it. So like I said, first we're going to start with a depth chart. So anything you want to move here, you just see this hand icon, you're just going to grab it and then drag and drop it wherever you want. Very simple, just like that. So we're going to go depth chart, and then we're going to have our keys section, followed by our skills list, and then our snapshot. So I do want a page break after snapshot, but I want all these other ones to be on the same page. So I'm going to turn off page break on all of them other than snapshot.
So page break, just like the blue line showing you, Gabe, that's coming after the section. So if you want a page break and start the section after it on a new page, that's when you would select that box.
Yep. So wherever you want that page break to happen, you're gonna check it if you want it after that. So if I checked skills list for page break, then snapshot would be on a different page, which we don't want.
Awesome.
So next we're going to move into our personnel. And then lastly, we're going to finish with our reports. So after personnel, we do want a page break. So I'm going to leave that on. But reports is one that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Mostly your reports are going to be at the end. And anything that you have at the end of your scouting report, you want to turn off page break because it will just give you a blank page after that. And I know that gets annoying. So just make sure if it's ending your scouting report, you are going to want to turn page break off. And then anything below that you're not using, so we're not going to use cover, just click right on there and it's going to turn it off. So that's in red and we're good there. So now we're going to use the gear icons to come up here and kind of configure those settings how we want them. So the depth chart, we do want a vertical depth chart, and we're going to change the header to expanded opponent to match what we had on the other one. Now we're going to move into keys, and I do want it custom, so I can kind of configure that how I want. And I'm going to keep header as none. So if you have a few different sections on one page, you only want a header on the top one, because then it will add a header in between each one and it'll get real messy. So we're just going to keep none as
Just to
header
go
there.
back, Gabe, to the key section in that drop down. Most times, if you guys have keys in different parts of the scout, or if you're wanting one full length and the others in 2 columns, you will always select custom. So more times than not, you guys will be selecting custom as opposed to that 2 and 3. So pay special attention to Gabe when he goes into how you can adjust those custom layouts, but just wanted to point that out to you all.
Awesome. Perfect. So there, now we're going to move on to skills list. So I am going to keep this one as 3 columns. You do have the option to do 2 as well. And I'm also going to leave the header off. And then we're going to go down to our snapshot. We're going to keep it as bar and also turn the header onto none. And then we have that page break. So that page is looking good. So now we're going to move down to personnel, keep it at classic, but I do want a break after my starters. You do have the ability to have a break after each player. So that's going to put each player on a new page. I know in that folder, there's one called handwritten. So if coaches want to do handwritten notes and put up one player on each page, that's kind of what people use that for. Header, we're going to move up to expanded opponent. And I don't want to hide images, but you do have that ability to take the player images off. And then into reports, there's nothing really to mess with there unless you want rankings on or off. I'm going to keep my rankings on. I will point out that you do have the ability to put scout plays in as well. So there's a ton of different options that you can come in here and play with to get your scout plays to display how you want them. I'm going to leave that off for now because we're not going to drop any scout plays, but you do have that ability to turn that on and off and still move it around how you want. So once you're done configuring that, make sure you want to hit update template. It's going to say successful up in the top right. And now your print template is looking good. So I'm going to click back out to scout templates right there.
Gabe, I'm going to give you a quick little break as he just finished out the scout template area in templates. If you guys have any questions, please feel free, throw them in the chat. We'd like to cover them as we're in those sections. So if anything comes to mind, do not hesitate. I know he's still going to cover a few other ones within the template area, but just want to remind everybody, chat is your friend. We're here for you guys.
Awesome. All right, so now we're going to move over to our stat profiles, as you can see right here. So if I click into stat profiles, you have all these different stat profiles. So these 4 right here, I built out before, but normally in your account, these 3 will already be built out. So your box score stat profile, that's just going to be what pulls in any box scores that you add. So like those 3 individual box scores that I added to this one, that's pulling from this profile right here. Team summary stat profile. So that first report that I had with the full box, that's going to pull that team summary. And then default, this is what I'm going to pull our personnel from. So you can just click the drop down here and come in and change whatever stats you would like. So I'll go ahead and I'll add field goal, make an attempts, and the same with threes. So you're just going to check that. You can come in and configure it however you want. As you can see, the different categories as well. I'll turn the last 5 off. We'll just do overall and conference. And then we're going to go ahead
If
and
this is
update.
the first time you guys are seeing a stat profile, as Gabe clicks update there, we do have some color coding in here. So especially if you're making player stat profiles, you want to stay away from any stat field that's blue. Those are team stats, so that's not going to show up on the scout. But the green ones are good. And as you're seeing in those columns, they're split by totals or per game stats. So if it's your first time, just wanted to give you an indication of what those colors and columns are. Thanks,
Yep.
Gabe.
So everyone's preference on what they want on each personnel. Some people like them a little bit longer, some like them a little shorter for your players, just completely your preference. I'll also add games played and games started as well. So I'll click update there. And as you can see, I added some different ones here. So if I wanted to add some different reports to the end and I want to use different stat profiles, you can always come down, click add new profile, name it whatever you want, and you can just add in whatever stats you want, whatever splits. So completely customizable and up to you guys. When you do populate those in, you'll be able to pick what stat profiles you want to pull from.
Awesome.
So right now, we're just going to adjust the default one. So I saved that. Let me just make sure I did save it. I'll update it one more time.
You guys can also see Gabe does have that default one. Whatever one you want to utilize for personnel, make sure that is selected as a default. So if he opens default once more for me, Gabe, you guys can all see that default setting in the top there is checked as default. You'll see where that shows up, but that's important to do for any personnel stat profile you want them to use, your staff to use.
Yep, so as long as you have that, whenever you pull in, so when you automate your personnel, it's going to automatically choose this profile. So you don't have to toggle between them. And I'll show you that as well. So if we don't have any questions on stat profiles, we can move into our Scout templates area. All good? All right, so I'm going to click back out to Scout templates. And I'm going to scroll down to our scouting report templates. So as you can see, I have a bunch that are inactive. Those are just ones I pre-made. So in everyone's account, you're going to have one called default scouting template. We encourage that that's the one that you use. You guys set that out however you want so that it's automated between pretty much your whole staff. So everybody can kind of work out of the same one. You do have the ability to create multiple. So I know some teams do like a player scout and a coach's scout. So you could either click the drop down and copy from your default scouting template and then kind of change that however you want, or you can just come up here and completely add a new one. Same thing right there, but we're just going to click into our scouting template right here for this webinar. And this is where we are going to set up everything that we want automated throughout all of our scouts. So the first thing I like to do is I'll go over to our personnel. And I'm going to pre-populate something in our personnel notes here. So every time I go into our personnel notes in an actual scout, I don't have to type this every time. I can just add the information that I want and it'll kind of make it a little easier for me. So I'm going to put what he does. And then I'm going to, didn't mean to do that. Going to add a couple bullets just to help our spacing out. And then I'm going to go over into our right column and I'm going to put how to guard and still add some bullets. So as you'll see down here, the green save button, after 3 seconds, it's going to auto save for you. So you don't have to worry about that, or you can go ahead and click that button if you want to. So right now, this is now going to populate under every personnel when we go into our scout. So now we're going to move over to our keys and we're going to configure that as well. One more thing with our personnel, if you don't type anything in your right column, as you can see down here with this blue star below, if you don't type anything in the right column, it's just not going to show up. So the left column will just spread out between the whole thing. So you don't have to worry about it being broken up like that if you don't have anything. So now we're going to move over to our keys and we're going to add some different keys. So these 4 right here are going to be pre-built out in your default scouting template. So I don't want this one and I don't want our defensive key. So you can just hit this black X in the top right and it'll go ahead and delete that out for you. And now I want to add one more. So I'm going to come up to add section. I'm going to name it about the opponent. And this is where you're going to be able to append your keys to different areas. So this is pretty important. If you want keys to be spread out throughout your scouting report, you're going to use this appending option here. So I'm going to click the drop down and I'm going to append this to the key section. So this means that this key itself is going to be where I have our key section in our print settings. So it's going to look just like we have in that print template that I showed you before. Now, if I want to add keys somewhere else throughout our scouting report, I can click this drop down. So say I wanted to add 3 keys after our personnel, I would append those keys to our personnel. So now I have our key section at the top, how we have it, and then I can also add keys throughout my scouting report without having to move those keys section around. So that gives you the ability to really personalize and configure some different options how you guys want it. And you can have keys throughout your whole scouting report. You can append it to any section. So let me go ahead and make it keys. I'll click save. And then now this is going to come into where we have our settings set as custom for our keys. So right here, we're going to go over to adjust layout, and we're going to adjust this. So I'm going to resize these keys with the blue area in the bottom right. So I'm going to drag it, and I want those to be down to half. And I'm going to use the blue hand to put them next to each other. And then I'm also going to add a new row above it, and I'm going to move about the opponent to above there.
So as you guys can see, depending on where you guys want those keys throughout your scout is going to depend on how you adjust this layout. So you can see this allows Gabe to do a 1-column key followed up by 2 columns. So anytime you guys are wanting to mix that or insert page breaks for keys, which we'll cover here in a second, that's that adjust layout that you want to utilize that Gabe's in right now.
Yep. So as Dee said, you can hover above or below those different keys now that we have them set how we want it. And I can add a new row. I can set a page break there to kind of split them up. And then you can also resize these all the way down to 1/4. So you can fit 4 keys on one as well if you would like. I'm going to leave this one full. And then I'm going to go ahead and click finish when I'm done. So I do want to point out right here in your Scout template, this is where you're going to want to set what print template you're using. So right now it's set as default. So that's how we wanted it. But for those other ones that I created, maybe I wanted it to be the shot chart one. So this is where you're going to set that so that when you click print, it's going to automatically go to that default print template that we just created. So when you're done there, you're just going to want to make sure you click finish and your layout will be updated. And you're not going to want to add any information here because then that will populate on all your scouts. So you're going to add your information later on. The only thing I'm going to add here that I want on all my scouts is some bullet points just for our spacing as we did before.
And this will also change per staff. We see a lot of placeholder text for offensive summary where they want to put in, transition offense, half court offense, zone offense, and press break. So those are some good examples that you guys might want in there as placeholder text to enforce or make sure that your staff members fill out that area.
Yep. So once you have that set how you want it, should be all good there. So now we're going to move over to skills lists and make sure that those are looking the way we want them to. So these 3 are going to be pre-populated like I mentioned before. I am going to keep these 3, but I'm just going to click down and kind of show you everyone what this looks like. So you have whatever your list name is, what you want that stat to be sorted by. Then you have your advanced rules here. So for things like free throw percentage or 3-point percentage, you are going to want to set advanced rules just because you don't want guys that are 2 for 2 and don't play a lot to be number 1 on your skills list. So you're just going to want to come in and kind of set those advanced rules however you would like them. And you can also add multiple different stats in those skills lists here. I'm going to leave this as points, but you can add some other ones below and customize that text as well. And then when you're done, you're going to want to click update and we'll just go down. Rebound should be set how we want it. And then worst free throw shooters, we do want to change this to low to high since we want those worst free throw shooters. But as you can see here, that advanced rule is set. So this is only going to pull in people that have taken more than 10 free throws. You also have the ability for your number of results. So that means how many players are going to populate in this skills list. So we have it set as 5. You can set it for as many as you want. A lot of people like to do 3, maybe 7, whatever you guys want. So we'll update there.
And I'd say for that advanced rule, Gabe, that's something that you guys will change as the season goes by, because those minimums are going to change quite a bit from game 1 to them attempting at least 1 shot to you guys wanting to filter that out even more. So you guys always have the ability to go back in, change those advanced stat rules to make sure it's populating the way you want.
Yep. And you also have the ability to completely add just a new one. So you just click add list and it's going to be the same workflow right there. Just kind of name it, put all your stats exactly how you want it, and then you would click add list. I'm going to leave those 3 right now, and then we can move over to reports. So as you can see, these 3 reports are always going to be populated. So we have that team summary, the advanced comparison, and traditional comparison. You do have the ability to add whatever you would like here. So you can title it, click from, choose from the different reports that we have offered for everyone. This is something that you guys can go in and play with. And like I said, in that folder, I'm pretty sure I have every single one of these reports in there as well. So you can see what those look like. Append it to whatever section you want. So same thing with your keys, you can append these. So maybe you wanted the team summary to be right after your personnel. You can change that right here. You can select the split that you want. And then for some different reports, you'll be able to choose a different stat profile. So maybe you created a new stat profile like you saw that I did in mine. You can choose that one, and that will populate for some of them as you click through right there. Then you would just click add. So for those individual box scores like you saw, I will show you how to do that, but that's going to be in your actual scouting report. You're not going to do that here since it's going to be a game by game type of thing. So right now,
reminder, adding the reports in the Scout template that Gabe just showed you guys, that's going to be automated as soon as you guys create new Scout. So if there's reports that you guys always want to print out before you scout or during the scout or head coaches want, this is where you want to put it so that you guys can just make your process more efficient.
Yep. All right, so now our scouting template is looking how we want it. So we are going to be able to move over to our actual scouting report section and create a new one if we don't have any questions so far. So this is really
on my end, Gabe. Again, questions. Gabe would love, oh, we just got a compliment that it's great stuff, but Gabe would love to answer questions if you guys have any. I'll give him a break of kind of talking and going through it. Appreciate you guys staying with us. The content's really great, Gabe, and I think people are going to come up with their own creative scouting reports because of it. So I believe at this point, we'll be transitioning to building a scout from a template. We won't get into the weeds too much on every area, but Gabe will show you how everything falls. So that's where we're going to head next. Again, if you have questions, throw them in the chat and we'll get you squared away. Appreciate the compliment. And I know Gabe does too. So it was for you,
yeah.
Gabe.
Thank you guys. Thank you. So like me and Dee were talking about the other day, the biggest thing with the print setting stat profiles and your scout template, this is really going to make your workflow way easier when the season comes. You can have this preset out, and then all you have to do is create a new report and add in the different information for the different players and those keys. But it's really going to simplify your workflow when it gets into the heat of the season and you don't have too much time to get ready for that next game. So now that this is all set, we're going to move over to our scouting report section here. Once again, you'll see I have a bunch of different ones built out and those different source templates here. So if I change that, that's how you're going to be able to see that. And then we have it grouped by season right now. So you can come up here and kind of group it by whatever you guys would like. So now I'm going to come over and I'm going to click add new, and I'm going to choose an opponent. So I'm a Wolfpack man. So we're going to do NC State. Actually, let's do UNC Wilmington. I think somebody I know is on this call from UNC Wilmington. So,
right.
And then for your game date here, this is where you're going to populate what roster you want. So if you want to create a scouting report from last year's roster, you want to make sure that this game date is set in last year's season. So anywhere from November to March pretty much is the threshold there. So I'm going to go back because I do want last year's, and I'll just do March 1st. So now that's going to pull in last year's roster. Right now, once the season starts this year, you'll be able to choose your actual game date and it'll populate in. But the season hasn't started yet, so we're going to do it from last year. And then here is where you're going to choose what template you want. So right now, this is the only one we have in there. But if I had multiple ones, so maybe I had a coach, a scout, and a player scout, I would choose coaches or players there. So that'll populate the different templates and print settings that you guys have set there. You also have the ability to assign to users and groups here, but we're going to leave that alone right now. So I'm going to click add, and it's going to jump us into that scout.
And so one thing to note, as Gabe gets into this part, we see this happen with new users. Do not go in and create a scout for every game this upcoming season, because when scout templates are created and then a scout is created off that template, any change you make on the template thereafter is not going to retroactively fix scouts that were already created. So save yourself some time and some work. Don't go ahead for the whole season and have 30 scouts in there. Just work ahead a little bit at a time in case your staff wants to change that template. So just want to make sure I noted that, Gabe. I know it's happened to some clients in the past.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want to have to change things in 2 different areas. So
No.
So the first thing you're going to want to do here is you're going to navigate over to personnel and you're going to automate your personnel. So right now you'll see that nobody's popping up. That's because we have not automated it yet. So you're going to go over to this blue button here, automate personnel. And as you can see, that changed to our default. So like Dee pointed out when we were in our print settings, or our stat profiles, excuse me, we had that checked as default. So that's why that changed right there. And then our stats, I do want to change this to last season so that I do pull in those stats from last season since we're using last year's roster as well. So that's where you're going to toggle. You can do all the way down to the 2020 season. And so you're going to want to make sure you change that. Skills list is always going to be checked. So we do have skills lists in this one. So we want to keep that checked and we're going to populate those. We're not using shot charts right now, so we didn't have our shot charts on for our personnel, and I'm not going to add any shot charts, so we don't need to populate those, but we do have a depth chart, so I'm going to check the depth chart, and then I'm going to click sync. So once this loads in, you'll see all of our personnel come in below. So after you automate that personnel, now you're going to want to go in and you're going to want to reorder your players, set your starters, and make guys inactive that you don't want to be on your scouting report. So I'm going to click reorder players, and I'm going to come in and I am going to fix this how I want it. So this is going to use some different statistics to set those starters how we think that, you know, with by minutes or points scored, that kind of thing. So you can come in and change that. So maybe a guy's hurt and you know he's not playing, you can go in and change that if you would like. Knowing my UNC Wilmington from last year, this is their starting 5, so we're going to leave that there.
Feel free to comment if you feel like Gabe's completely wrong on his starter guesses.
I think I'm good on that one. And then I'm going to use these blue hands to kind of move around our bench if I would like. So you can still, with the blue hand, you can move guys however you would want. So we'll move some of these guys up to here, and the guys that we don't have playing will be down at the bottom, and I will show you how to take them off of your personnel. So you do want to make sure that you have your starters checked right here. All it is a simple checkbox. You can do more than 5 if you want to change your configuration a little bit. Sometimes you can put like 6 on one page just to kind of make it look a little cleaner, but that's really up to you guys. And once that's looking how you want it, we're going to come up and click finish. So now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to make some of these guys inactive that I don't want on there. So these 3 guys at the bottom, pretty sure they're walk-ons. We're going to check these and we'll do this in bulk. And we're going to make all 3 of them inactive. You can do it one by one by just clicking the drop down and then clicking make inactive, but we'll do all 3 at once. We'll scroll back up to our bulk actions right here, change status and make inactive. So now if I scroll back down, those guys are in red. They're not going to show up on our scouting report, even if I do add information for them.
And that's both on the PDF print scout as well as the app. So that's going to take care of taking those players off of both.
Yep. So now we're going to want to add that information for our players. So you can do it 2 ways. You can either click this gray shaded area here. Since I did add information in there, just those headers and bullets, you can click there, or I encourage to hit edit profile and come over to notes and stats. And as you can see, those ones I pre-populated are there. So now I can come in here, add the different information that I want for each player. As you can see, it'll have my initials up here. So this plays into our fully collaborative system here, which will show you in our keys. Multiple people can work in the same scouting report at the same time, and we will touch on that in a second. So once you're good, you've added all your information. Like I said, this would turn green if I typed anything. After 3 seconds, it'll auto save. And then I can come up here to jump to player, and I can kind of go down the line and add in information for each player there without having to click back out each time. So I'll just kind of move on down the line as you can see there. You also have the ability to add video for each player. So I can come in and click add. If you do have our Synergy API integration, that will play in there, or you can just drag and drop files onto that player right there and click done. You can set matchups as well. So I can assign this to one of my players. I could assign it to myself or Danielle. So my player would then get that notification that they have that matchup in the app. And then you can also, if I generated those shot charts, which I did not, you would be able to see that shot chart there. So once you're all good there, you can click back to Scout. And now our personnel is set. So after this, we're going to move over to our depth and lists. If we don't have any questions, we're good, D?
We are good so far. I got my eye on it, but nothing just yet.
All right, awesome. So over to depth and lists, as you can see that I automated our depth chart and our list when I automated our personnel. So I do want to come over and make sure that it's looking how we want it to. In this gray down here, you can see the criteria that we use to set this depth chart. So if you want to change it, like I said, if somebody is hurt or playing a different position, you have that ability to just use the drop down and change that how you would like it, all the way down to 3 players deep. You can also change the position. So some people might want to do 1 through 5, or you could do point guard, shooting guard, small forward, on so on and so forth, just like that. So you have that ability to customize that however you would like. And then now you have your skills list down here. I do encourage you to come in and kind of just take a look at it. Make sure you don't need to change those stats in your print template. So if it's looking good, and it is right now, you're good there. Or if you have a guy on there that isn't playing, or maybe took a few extra shots and you do need to adjust that, you can just go back to your Scout template and adjust that there. So our depth chart and skills lists are looking good. So now we're going to move over to our keys. So our keys are going to be set how we had them in our template. So if I hit adjust layout, you'll see it's going to look exactly the same and still default there. So that's the print template that we're pulling from. So it's looking good there. So now I can come in and add different information. And as you can see with our collaborative system, you have my initials right here, and Danielle is in this other key below. So you can see that her initials are there. So 2 of us are working in the same spot right here. You do have this error message that'll pop up if you're typing in the same one, which you can apply their changes. So it's just going to let you know that, hey, multiple people are in here typing. So kind of be careful there.
Yeah. And Gabe, go ahead and click into the text box I'm in right now. You guys will see we take an extra safeguard here of saying, hey, someone is actively in here. We encourage you guys to not ignore warnings so you don't overwrite work. But we also will show when that person has been inactive for 3 minutes or more. So you guys can go in, work collaboratively perfectly. But we added those safeguards for you all to make that experience a little better on your side.
Awesome. So we're good there. We're going to type in the different information that we want for our keys. And like I said, that autosave will work here as well, and we'll be good there. So now we have our reports that we set. So those are going to populate already since we automated those stats. The last thing we're going to do is add those individual box scores like I showed you guys at the beginning. So to do that, we're going to go over to team, and we're going to come down here to box scores. So as you can see, our matchup snapshot. So what I showed you guys, this is just what it's going to look like. You'll have your traditional and advanced comparison down here. So I can toggle between that as well. You can also go into your stat factory from right here, so you don't have to navigate to anywhere else on your system. You can kind of look through some different stats that you might want to look at while you're creating your scouting report. And then you have your box scores. You also have your game log, so you don't have to have another tab pulled up. If you want to add in some custom stats for each player, we'll have this all here for the team. So you don't have to like be on ESPN and look at their game schedule while you're doing this. And then also shot charts as well that you can add, but we didn't populate those. So we're going to come over to box scores. And as you can see, this is going to be UNC Wilmington's entire 21-22 schedule. So I'll come down and I'll add I want to add these 3 games. So you can do it one by just clicking the drop down. You can add this as a split line to your personnel, so that would, maybe you're playing Drexel for the second time and you want that first game's split line on your player personnel, so you can add that there. You could print this whole box score. You can add you can add the whole thing to the end, or add the individual as well. So right now, these 3, I'm going to add all of them, and I'm going to come up and do it in bulk, and I'm going to add them as individual box scores. So if I added them as combined, it would just combine those 3 into one box score and not have your entire season as our team summary would. So I'm going to add individual box scores.
That's your ability to create custom team summaries. So you guys, those 3 games would just look like our team summary report, just including those 3 game stats.
Yep. And now once I added those 3 as individuals, I can come over to our reports and it's going to be reflected right there. A lot of times I like to kind of configure it by date, where you guys can move it around how you want. With these blue hands here, you can move all your reports around. So that is the last thing that I wanted to add for our report. So now if I hit print, it should look exactly how we want it without having to configure anything else. And there we go. So as you can see, this scouting report is looking exactly like that Canvas one that I showed you guys before. So we have our vertical depth chart with our expanded opponent header down into our keys, then our skills list, snapshot, starters split to our bench. Then we have our team summary, advanced comparison, traditional comparison, and then those 3 individual box scores that I added as well. So we don't have to configure anything with our print controls in here. We have it all set up how we want it. So we can just hit print and then go ahead and either download it as a PDF, send it to the printer if you want to print it out for your guys. Really got whatever you guys want to do. So that's how you use those print templates, stat profiles, and your scout template to create a new scouting report.
Awesome. And hopefully you guys can see how those 3 areas all really verge into one. It's going to allow you guys to be super creative with some of the reports out there. Again, check that folder that we shared with you guys for some other ideas as well. We're going to open it up to questions. If there are any, please throw it in the chat. We can cover those as we're all on here together. One question that we did have come through, Gabe, what is the easiest way to print all reports out without hopping into printing the scout?
Let me move my Zoom settings. So I can come back out to our scouting report, so we can just use these other ones that I have already built. And you can do everything in bulk right here. Oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. So you can come down here and print them as well without having to jump in. Just clicking the drop down. Sorry, I didn't mean to click on Canvas. Just loading in for us. But yes, you don't have to jump into each scout and then hit print. You can just kind of click that drop down and print it for each one. So all these different ones that I've built out, I can just print those all right here.
Awesome. And then can you jump into a scout, Gabe? I think they also wanted to see just how to print reports out of a scout.
Yep. So if I just come over to the reports tab, I can come right over to our team summary and you'll see all these print icons right here. You can print all as you see with this button here, or you can print them individually right there.
Perfect. Awesome.
And delete as well.
All right. Anything else, guys? We'll give it another minute for some more questions. As you guys know, this was one of our many webinars. We do have them all recorded if you guys are wanting to look at how to build a scout, which is going over kind of the latter half of this, of all the things you guys can do to really beef out your scout before sharing it with your players. I encourage you to check that out if you haven't seen it already. With that, though, if there's anything you guys are looking more of that we haven't done with some of our webinar series, throw it in the chat. Interested to hear what you guys want us to cover next, from anything app focused or even on the coaches side. We'd love to hear from you what else you want to see. We do these things for you. Gabe does a ton of videos on our support side for you guys as well. So if you point us in the right direction, we'll make sure we take care of you. So scroll up in the chat if you haven't already. Save that image if you guys want it. Go ahead and use that folder for an asset as well. And we'll make sure we help it. I just got a question of how do we access those webinars? I'm going to send in a link through our training academy that you guys can see past webinars if you scroll down. The other spot you guys will find a ton of information is as you guys are navigating in your account, there's a ribbon at the very top with a button that says learn more. That changes depending on what page you're on. So it's different from playbook to presentation to scout. It's going to house webinars, tutorials for you guys to check out and be able to use in there as well. But that link I just sent in is going to give you guys the ability to go back and watch previous webinars. As always, Gabe, appreciate your time. This is a different type of webinar, a lot of details in it, and you killed it, knocked it out of the park. For you all that attended, appreciate you guys wanting to get better and learn more about our system. If you guys need anything specific, please use the blue button. We're here to help you, as our support team is always willing to talk to you guys with whatever you need. So appreciate you guys being in here. Gabe, I think we're good to end it. Appreciate your time. And blue button as always, and good luck guys as you guys have kids on campus and starting up workouts. We can't wait for season to start.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for showing up and learning with us.
That's
Have
right.
a good one.
Appreciate it.